Hello, my name's Lesley Atherton, and this story is called Beer for Breakfast. 6 a.m. God, 6 a.m. Cameron was beginning to think it was physically impossible to sleep after dawn, especially as the pain in his stomach became more intense and arrived earlier each and every morning. Though he fell into a deep slumber at around 10 p.m, he would wake exhausted and racked with pain at regular intervals through the night. midnight, 2, 3, 5, 6. Cameron's hands reached down to clutch his aching guts, knowing without much regret that the drink would kill him fairly soon. And when the drink did kill Cameron Scott stone dead, there would be not a single mourner. In his life, there was no longer space for sightseers, and nor for advice givers. His fingers reached for the tenderness that was his distended abdomen. Though it was ready for draining and the diseased boulder in his abdomen was seriously unpleasant, he had no intention of attending his hospital appointment that afternoon. Instead, his fingers moved from his body and out towards the bottle. He rarely made it to bed nowadays, and would both sit and sleep while slouched on the grubby armchair in his barely adequate charity-provided bedsit. He often wondered how he'd ended up this way, especially as his life's beginning had been so promising and positive. And now, at 6 a.m. on the 21st of December 2017, he suspected that this would be his final earthly Christmas. He wasn't sorry, and he wouldn't stop drinking either. Why not? Because the pain of drinking was less than the pain of not drinking. Agonising cramps, bowel problems, flashing headaches, and a general apathy were all hard enough to deal with, but he was accustomed to the exhaustion and unpleasantness. A few months ago he'd been able to cry for the pathos of his situation, but that wasn't something that happened now. It's essential to become immune to your feelings in order to get to 60 years old with a beer for breakfast, vodka for lunch and cider for dinner habit. Cameron was certainly blind to them, disregarding even. He'd gone past the point of drinking for idealism, for art and for pleasure, and moved on to drinking out of a morbid self-pity. Then finally continued drinking because he couldn't do anything else, and it was all he had left. Gone were the only people who had ever mattered. Most had been gone for many years, especially Susan, his beautiful, clever, political and community-minded wife, who cared as much for him as she did for saving the world. What a woman she was. And his little girl, she was curly-haired, clumsy, sweet, funny, just like her mother. Cameron wondered where both were now, though the answer didn't matter much, as he too would be gone shortly, and wife and daughter would not mourn his passing. Cameron shifted from his chair and stood up. His creaking legs took him hesitantly over to the bathroom, and he stood in front of the paint-peeled mirrored medicine cabinet. His supplies were stacking up, as he hadn't taken his medication for quite a few weeks. That was how he knew his end was near. There was to be no survival without the drugs. He peered inquisitively at the face staring back from the mirror, a face of red eyes with tangerine yellow orbs and a skin of mustard grey sagginess. Cameron smiled, to reveal browning teeth and a tongue furred by neglect. It was a good job that there wasn't much left to smile about. The phone rang in the corner of the room, and Cameron hobbled over to it, not bothering to pick up his walking stick from the bed. "Hello," he said, his voice cracking and weak. A few moments of silence, and then, "And cut," came the shout from the studio floor. "Great stuff, Freddie, you were amazing. How a 25-year-old can get so deeply into this character is just beyond me. I truly believe that you were a 60-year-old alcoholic." And Freddie Francis, 25-year-old method actor of supreme talent and dedication, smiled his weak brown-toothed smile, downed a quarter pint of vodka, rubbed his aching knees and hobbled, in very real pain, back to the bed, collapsing on top of his unmade covers. He really did give everything to his art.